Hey everyone, this is Nathan from the Zest Wellness team. And before we begin our webinar with Katie and Sharon, we're just going to allow another minute or so for a few more of our attendees to click the link and join us, and then we'll get started. So again, we'll just wait another minute or so for everyone to click the link and get settled for today's webinar. So once again, we'll start in another minute or so. Okay, with that being said, welcome to everyone who has decided to join us on this day, this fantastic Wednesday, as we all try to navigate this current public health time, isn't it? And we all try to do our best and learn how we can move forward afterwards. That said, thank you for joining us for this webinar by the Zest Wellness team from Colonial Group International. We do these webinars to help with health education, health awareness, health literacy to as many individuals as we can, whether it be our webinars such as this, our blog, podcasts, events. We all do this. All these different tools in our toolbox are to help others and make health and wellness that much more important for all of us. So with that said, we'll move on to our first slide here, our next slide, because today's webinar is called Flipping the Switch. And we have the privilege of being joined by two of our Zest Wellness team members, Sharon Looney and Katie Titterton. And their main message today is to essentially start this conversation. And a lot of this conversation revolves around the tie between wellness, parenting, how on earth do we navigate this right now? When we asked, Sharon and Katie kind of their quick thoughts to kind of prime us for this webinar, they said, hey, no one's necessarily an expert in this topic, but we're here all together to try to start the conversation as we're all in this together. Some things might work for some people. Some things might sound easier said than done. But the point is, we just want to try to start this conversation and show that maybe there are tiny habits that can help individuals. Nothing will change overnight, but maybe we can just add something here, something there to make someone's day that much easier. Even for Katie herself, one of her personal wellness philosophies is everything in moderation, keep it simple. Similar can be said from Sharon when she said quotes such as start small, think big, don't stop, and most importantly, pivot, pivot, pivot. So with that said, we're gonna now start our slides with Katie and Sharon as they try to make this time in our lives just a little bit easier, healthier, and happier. Katie and Sharon, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Nathan, for that really nice introduction. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all keeping well, keeping safe. My name is Sharon. I'm going to speak to you guys just from a personal perspective. I'm going to talk about how I transitioned. And this is, as Nathan said, it's a conversation starter. I want you guys to feel like we're just having a chat. We'll talk about the things that we found, really helpful. We'll talk about some struggles. And there's also a way that you guys can chat in the chat box. Present your questions, present your comments, feel like you're a part of this, and we'll address those at the end. So I have a few tongue-in-cheek kind of headings. I don't know if anyone was on TikTok recently. Everyone's flipping the switch. People are dancing. But we're going to talk about that in the context of working from home with kids, and working from home with this pandemic surrounding us and what that looks like. We'll talk about setting boundaries, how we're trying to create lines and, separate things, but maybe realizing that maybe the lines are a little bit blurry. That inspiration came from Robin Thicke's song, Blurred Lines. But yeah, just on a lighter note, we'll be sharing lots of activity ideas, and we'll be sharing really helpful resources and links. And we'll be sharing what we've heard from you, our Zest Wellness members, because that's the most important thing about us as Zest Wellness. We're a community. We might be online right now, but all of you guys listening, we're here in this together, and this is actually social wellness. So thank yourselves for staying connected. So well done, you. Hopefully we'll be able to reflect, and we've added in self-care at the end, and Katie will be leading that. And the reason we've combined these two is because we know you're busy. We know that you're parents, and we get that. So that's why we really wanted to combine these two very interesting topics. So yeah, let's get started. So first of all, there are pictures of me flipping the switch. What was it like for you? Did it happen overnight? Did we wake up and just be like, we got this? I can certainly testify and acknowledge that it was not a switch that went on and off. I put up a black and white picture to remind myself that there is no black and white. Me as a parent right now, and me as a working professional, and trying to get health information and resources to our Zest Wellness members, it hasn't been a smooth transition. And there are three kind of key things that I want to just show what helped me. And I described the switch flipping as a dimmer switch. I felt like it faded in and out. There's times where it's, really clear. I feel I'm in one zone. I'm in my workspace right now. But in 10 minutes later, there's going to be pasta on my pants from my toddler eating his lunch. All new. So what does switching off mean for you? And I think I want to start with switching off as opposed to switching on, because that's how we relax and unwind. So the first thing that helped me to adjust with this transition was exercise. Being parents, the biggest thing that comes to me from doing our biometric screening is parents tell me, working parents, say that I just don't have the time, but I want to. So finding something online that's quick. A lot of providers are doing like 30-minute free online classes. And again, all the resources are shared with us via Zest Wellness. But I really found that I really needed that personal time just to be on my own, because we're in our houses surrounded by people, luckily, but also unluckily that we wanted just time for just us. So maybe just recognize that, recognize what you could do for you to switch off. Some people like reading, some people like taking, an extra long shower just to switch off for themselves. And the second thing I want to talk about is switching our news feeds. Initially, I can maybe, a lot of us became overpowered. I'm trying to find the right words, but it's been overwhelming with the amount of news, the amount of information, even the new language that has come towards us. We're trying to adjust. And I had to switch my newsfeed. I, being the type of person I am, felt like I needed to get control, really try and understand this, but I was really overwhelming myself. So now I've switched from looking at news 24/7 just to looking at the daily updates from my government. So maybe this is something that you might consider if this is something you're struggling with as well. And then recognizing that we've got families and we've got partners and children, how do we switch off together was something that really jumped to my mind when someone asked me to talk about parenting in this pandemic. And what's lovely about this time and what's also challenging is that there's things that we did before that we can still do now that can kind of help us feel a bit more comforting and help us switch off from work and maybe switch off from the newsfeed as well and disconnect and get together. An example for us is I have two little boys, and they have their bubble baths in the evenings. And it's such a special time. We don't talk about work. We try not to talk about the pandemic, and it's a way for us to switch off as a family, watch the boys play with their toys and splash around, and then we follow that up with our story time. So it's nice that we can kind of recognize the things that we did in the past that allow us to unwind before can actually help us switch off right now. So the next slide is really acknowledging that, this is really, really such a big challenge for all of us. I think everyone should really celebrate how we've transitioned, but acknowledge that it's a unique time with unique challenges. And these are these bullet points here, and this gorgeous picture of it's actually a Zest Wellness member in Bermuda, who has set up their daughter's school station right next to where they work. So their decision was, although they're working from home, they want to create boundaries. They've actually created very specific workspaces, which is really, really cute. So there's the school space and then the workspace right next to each other. We're just going to talk about scheduling. So there's so much information, and everyone's hearing, hey, set a schedule. But your schedule will not be the same as someone else's schedule. Your kids might be at different stages. Maybe your friends don't have kids. Maybe they like to log on in the morning and do their work really early, but maybe you find that you can't focus on your tasks and you actually prefer doing the majority of your work in the evenings. Then you've got the added pressure of maybe people that you live with also working, kids trying to do their school schedules. So there's a big blurred line around all of those schedules. But what I would advise and maybe suggest, again, there is no right and wrong way, is do what works for you. Trial and error. So if you're finding it frustrating, the schedule just did not work today and you're feeling super stressed, tomorrow's another day. This afternoon is another afternoon. We can reset. And as Nathan mentioned, my philosophy is we do have to pivot. And that can, when we're faced with these challenges, we might just have to change our approach and our plan. And that will help us feel a little bit more in control. Showering is another example of, things that our members have said that have helped them. However, having that in the schedule won't match everyone else's. So what I mean by that is, personally, I've heard people say, hey, I just get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, have my shower and get to work and have a coffee. But that doesn't work for me because I have long hair and I have to dry it. And I don't have that time. So funnily enough, I've actually decided to take my showers in the evenings. Other moms actually get up super early, and some dads maybe taking turns on who can get up early and have their shower in the morning to refresh and restart their day. Communication is another really helpful tool and something to recognize and acknowledge. How we communicate at home and how we communicate at work. A slightly strange scenario was I was kind of finding it difficult to switch between how I spoke to my colleagues and then, being on a work call and 5 seconds later, talking to my husband about how we're going to juggle the kids and, what's the next routine on the agenda, etc. And I tried actually speaking to my husband like a colleague. I asked him how his weekend went and if he'd like a coffee from the canteen. Obviously, we don't have a canteen, it's the kitchen. But yeah, we just try to make a joke about how we communicate with each other. But the most important thing is that we're clear and we're honest. So if you're feeling burnt out or if you have a very busy schedule coming up, try plan ahead and communicate that. If you've got a calendar, that also helps. So just kind of identify those things as well with your children. Do they have a project they're working on? You know, is that time that they want to set aside and do that with you? So the next point is tech resources. By tech, I mean technology. So what types of technology has helped you recently? So just reflect on what's worked well. Maybe there are things you can continue while we're experiencing this time. For me personally, headphones have been an absolute win. I'm extremely grateful for them because they help me define my work time. I put in my headphones and I listen to a very specific type of music, and it helps me disconnect and focus with work. And then on the other side, there's loads of productivity apps. Monday.com is really, really cool. It helps me be more productive, plan ahead and schedule with work, which is really, really cool. Another thing is that some types of work, and we all have phones now, some types of work can be done over the phone. Speaking to my friends and colleagues during this time, we found that, you know, there's so much email going on, there's so much, you know, posts and go-to meetings, and a lot of it is in the written text format, but we also have our voices, and we can also just pick up the phone and have that conversation. Usually we would pop into one another's offices or workspaces and go, hey, how's your day going? I wanted to chat to you about X, Y, and Z and what we can do with this project or how I can help, etc. So I would recommend picking up the phone for a lot of things. And I find that that's a really productive way to get stuff done for me and my workspace. Defining the workspace physically is, again, demonstrated in this photograph. However, it's not that perfect. I have a kitchen table in a downstairs bedroom. There is glitter on the floor. It's just not the norm. However, define it as much as you can. Try not to have, like, obviously any work materials. I try and keep all the pens and stationery just kept aside in one designated space, and that physical separation is helpful for me. But maybe reflect on different things that you could do to adjust your workspace. Maybe that would help you separate things a little bit more. And the last point here, to try and create boundaries and try and separate work from family life and vice versa, is taking our breaks outside. If permitted, I put in brackets because that doesn't, the advice is constantly changing. And we do need to keep up to date with that. But while we can, and if we can, taking our lunch breaks or our coffee breaks in some sunshine will really help us feel like we're stepping out of the work zone and taking that time to reflect as individuals and maybe share that lunch break with family members. So this slide initially looks a little bit heavy. I don't want to go through all the points. I kind of want to talk over it, and I really want to emphasize that there is no right and wrong way to do things, but there are definitely challenges that are facing us right now as parents working from home and having our family surrounding us. The World Health Organization and UNICEF are both international organizations. The WHO is primarily focused on health resources, whereas UNICEF is more education focused. So I thought it would be really good just to include both of them. They have given 6 tips by the WHO, and UNICEF have given 5. So I'll start with talking through what the WHO, or World Health Organization, recommends to try and create a supportive environment for ourselves and our kids during this time. And they cited one-on-one time. So what that means is setting time, scheduling it for one-on-one time with your children. This has been difficult for me because I'm a new mom to 2 kids, and I have primarily dealt with one, so trying to juggle that in itself has been challenging. But what has helped was I tried to figure out what I like to do with my kids in terms of fun activities. So I personally like more arts and crafts, orientated stuff, whereas my husband is into more of the sports. So that one-on-one time I spend with my child, I'm doing that activity that I enjoy. So we're both benefiting. If you're struggling with keeping it positive or struggling with setting up your timetable or your structure, or maybe your child is acting out at this time, or maybe you're feeling stressed and you just really can't keep calm. So all those things, you know, if you're finding those things challenging, this website is the go-to resource for you, because they have amazing downloadables on how you deal with bad behavior, how to help calm and manage stress as a parent. So it's really, really specific to us right now, and it's COVID related. I've made an effort trying not to talk or go too deep into COVID, but it is something that is around us, and it is something that our children might ask. How do we answer those questions? What do we say to them? How do we talk about it amongst ourselves? And what do we say to our children? And those answers and how to phrase that and how to articulate it are available on the World Health Organization. And even better, they have gone and they've connected with international bodies, and they've created a really, really sweet storybook. I'll show it a slide on it later. But that is a way to talk about COVID, talk about children dealing with anxiety right now, and talk about what's happening with your children through story time. Moving on to UNICEF, again, the website is available there. They said routine together. So again, it's a family collaborative approach. Again, the resources for how to routine together are available on that website. So if you find like, hey, I'm actually just really struggling with a routine issue, I hear so much about routine, how do I do it? It's available on UNICEF. Taking your time was what one of the key educators from UNICEF recommended. And what does that mean? So whether you're at work or whether you're taking time out with your children, whether you're trying to explain some homeschooling with them, take your time, try and slow down. It's my default to talk really fast and rush through things and try and be productive, but it's not necessarily the best thing to do. And they recommend slowing down, taking your time, and really separating that moment. Again, they allude to having those conversations, which the World Health Organization discusses as well. But if you find you need more resources about talking to your children, again, this is really, really helpful. The next point is protecting children online. It's something that I haven't seen come up a lot recently, and I think is really, really, really important. We are spending more time online. Our children are spending more time online, but how do we protect them? What do we do? Do we put in safeguards? Do we limit screen time? Do we increase screen time? Is there things that we should be doing? Again, there's a step-by-step guide available on that website if you find that that's something you need support with. And the last point from UNICEF was connect with the school. Recognize that the schools are here right now, they're available, and they're really willing to help, which is really, really amazing. I've seen great things happening here in Grand Cayman, and even from our children's daycare. It's been just so inspiring and really impressive on how children actually seem to adapt a little bit better than us at times. But if you're finding that there's a specific subject, or maybe there is an issue in the past that you're encountering now with your child, connect with your school, and they will definitely support you. Here we have a more kind of fun page. So the last slide was a bit technical, but these are activity ideas. So what I would like you to do is think of your favorite activity you did as a child. What was your favorite game that you did when you were your child's age? So it can be really nice to reflect on that. Dressing up, picking a color, building a fort. There can be new things that we've actually discovered. So maybe we've just downloaded TikTok now and we're all learning how to do a dance. Or it could be something such as, hangman. We really liked playing that as a kid. Or maybe we're really good at cooking and we want to share that activity and make it child friendly. Baking, I put in eating because I'm not a baker and I'm not really a good chef. So eating is the third option. But just, yeah, again, trying to think of things you can do that you can enjoy with your children. And it doesn't have to be like hour long. It doesn't have to be really creative. And it doesn't have to be every day. It can be something simple as blowing bubbles in the garden for 10 minutes, making a paper airplane. And yeah, we've got some pictures here on the right hand side just to kind of show how we can be creative during this time. Indoor Olympics was something that sparked my attention. I have tried it, so tried and tested by Zest. It's actually really, really fun. We put pillows on the floor, and the children, well, my 2-year-old, he hopped between the pillows, and I happened to have like a neon tunnel lying around as well. So he was crawling through that. Again, it's things that work well for you. Maybe choose an activity that you enjoyed before and engage with your child and do that. So instead of reading all these things out, they're going to be available to review on YouTube, and we'll have all these links as well mentioned previously available in the YouTube description. So if you guys have anything that you have enjoyed doing recently with your children that have maybe sparked a bit of joy, it could have been a cool craft idea, please feel free to share it in the text box. We'd love to hear what you guys are up to. So yeah, this is the top 5 links for kids. So I kind of cheated because link number 1 has actually 60 free resources for parents. So you'll be able to click on this link afterwards, and it is so amazing. There's free resources, so free being the operative word. So I would definitely recommend you check that one out. The next one is free audiobooks. So why did I put in audiobooks? I put that in because screen time is a challenge. It's something that our parents have raised as a challenge for them, and having children at home. So free audiobooks is a great alternative to keep our kids busy, keep them quiet and entertained. And the third one here is live science, virtual museums, and more. So, and this website is really, really cool. There's similar websites available. And what these do is that you can actually go on a virtual school tour to science and museums, which is really, really fun. I tried one recently with my toddler. We went to a virtual zoo. We looked at otters. It was surprisingly relaxing and really, really cute. And it really helped me switch off and relax for that lovely moment. The next one that I think is really important to highlight is we don't have to be artists or singers or this amazing creative person that we never were before, but maybe we can teach our kids life skills, like how bad we can teach them how to empty the dishwasher depending on their age, matching socks. This website shows you how to make it child friendly and actually kind of even into games. So it's definitely worth checking out. And the last link there was the link to get this parenting book from the WHO. It's free and it's available for download, and it really is a really sweet story, kind of navigating children through this really stressful time. So enough about what I found helpful for me. Hopefully you guys have, maybe identified with some of the things I said. I think it's important that we start opening up this conversation and we share on social media to feel more connected. But just to start maybe that initiative or that drive, we reached out to some of our members and this is what they said. So there are good days and there are bad days. Cut yourself some slack. Shower and start your day early. Schedule and organize your workspace. And what's really important to see here and hear is that this is coming from your community, your Zest Wellness members. And it's also what's recommended by these international experts. So I just found it really, really interesting that all the feedback that came from our clients and yourselves as members has really crossed over with what the experts are saying. So well done you, you're doing it, we've got this. It's not perfect and it won't be perfect, but we're here and there's resources and there's tips and tricks that you can do to make it just that little bit less stressful and easier on yourself. So being kind and self-care is so, so important, which Katie will speak to. So the next slide is just something to make you smile. Maybe you identify, maybe you don't, but this is what working from home looked like for me last week. I had created all the previous slides. I needed to do the pictures and inserting them in the evenings because it required a little bit more concentration. But in general, I was able to research the content during the day. But by the end of the slides, while my toddler was sitting on my lap, we ran out of Post-its. So he was happily coloring on his Post-its, and then he attacked the keyboard. He went for it. He was creative. I don't know what he was trying to say to you guys, but what this message or what this slide is trying to say is that this is what it looks like. It's okay. It's hard. And at the time I was frustrated because I was like, I need to finish this, by next week. And I was trying to prepare, but it was so ironic that it was exactly what I was trying to speak about, that it's imperfect and we are going to have these moments. And now that frustrating moment that I was, oh, like, why did he just type it on my clean slide, is now actually a really special moment. And I'm looking at it smiling because it brings me joy. So hopefully we'll be able to look back on some of our frustrations and smile together as we work through this thing. So Katie, I'm so glad you're here today. I feel like I've been talking a lot and I think everyone needs to hear a different voice right now. So this is Katie. Hello, Katie.
Hi, thank you, Sharon.
Thank
That
you.
was amazing. So much good information there, so many good resources. Hopefully everyone was able to relate to some of the information she shared and her fun stories. Those were great, Sharon, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I had myself on mute, but I did have some giggles. That was really, really good.
Okay.
Um, so this whole topic of self-care, which I'm going to talk about right now with you guys for a little bit, has been really hyped up lately with this working from home situation and with this whole global pandemic. And what I want to do first is just kind of break down the fact that self-care doesn't mean you're being selfish. It's not taking away from time with your families. It's giving time to you. So I actually looked at the definition of self-care and I thought it was really interesting. So I'm going to share it with you all now. It's the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. And if that's not applicable to what's happening right now, then I'm not sure what else is. An active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness. It makes me think of that old anecdote of, the planes going down and the oxygen masks come down and you've got to put your mask on first before you can help someone else. And that's kind of how I'm viewing self-care right now with this work from home scenario. If you're taking care of yourself fully, then you can be helping your family and taking care of your family better. So what we're kind of looking at here is, looking at self-care in small, manageable chunks. So today, this week, plans for future self-care, even though that's a bit uncertain. And we're starting small and thinking big. So we've got some nice examples here of self-care, and they're not what you would think. Self-care is not all bubble baths and face masks. Sometimes it can be as simple as putting yourself first, asking for what you need, setting boundaries, which Sharon described to us earlier, which was fantastic. Staying at home. This one might not be a choice for all of us right now, but it is important. saying no, forgiving yourself, taking a step back, asking for help, and spending time alone. That one might be a tough one with, young children and everyone being under the same roof, but spending some time alone is really, really helpful, even if it's just going outside to the garden with your morning coffee. So we kind of wanted to put self-care out to you guys and, ask you, what are your ideas of self-care right now? What have you done for yourself, maybe since you started work from home? What have you done this week? What small acts have you done today that, you could consider self-care? And for me, for example, like I spent this morning, I called my mom and my sister. My sister lives in Washington. So we did like a FaceTime in the garden, and that was my like social connection to start the day. I took the call outside, which is my vitamin D, and then I walked around the garden, which for me is my favorite place right now. It's just such a nurturing zone. And that's not a big thing to say. That's my self-care for the day. But in terms of my own happiness and well-being, it made a huge difference. So we'd love to see some of your ideas of self-care right now. It could be getting a bath before bed. It could be making your favorite breakfast. It could be doing a favorite activity with your children. It could be something that takes you 10 minutes to do every day, and that's it. But we'd love to see some of your examples here so that we can share them in the future.
Ooh, Katie, I've just gotten a text from a Zest Wellness member who's also a friend, and she has shared that her self-care right now is turning off the computer at the end of her workday. So that is something I would never have associated with self-care. But
I love that one.
how interesting. So
Thank
yeah,
you,
thanks for
Sharon.
sharing that.
That's
Another
actually something that this week I've started doing is at the end of the workday, shutting down my workstation and actually putting it away. And that's something that I am
yeah.
able to do that, and I'm very, very grateful. But it's that sense of like separation from work and home, because the first 2 weeks I definitely felt like I was
Mm.
living at work. So that's a
Ooh,
great one, shutting down the
I've got
computer.
I've got another one here from another Zest member. So she messaged, don't mind our hair. So maybe the hair is not perfect right now, but they're saying they take 10 to 15-minute breaks and they get dressed. So
Mhm.
maybe self-care right now is, hey, I'm winning at life because I got dressed and I took care of myself in that small, manageable way. Because as you said, it might not be, our traditional sense of wellness, but we can maybe nurture and be mindful of the things we are doing to make ourselves feel good, brushing our teeth,
Mhm.
showering, getting dressed, eating work away from our work area, eating work, eating our lunch, work, eating our lunch away from our work area is what another member has just messaged in, which is again what you have said, it can be outside, inside. So um, definitely new ways of self-caring, and it is a blank canvas. So we
Mhm.
might just be starting like really basic right now, but I do think there's ways to grow. And Katie has some really cool stuff to share with us and how we can grow together.
Yeah, absolutely, Sharon. That kind of brings it to what I was going to mention next, is that we're finding right now, with everyone being locked down in their homes, and you can't go to the gym or to the spa or go for that hike that you love to do, that our wellness needs are kind of returning back to our basic needs in life in general. So things like our own self-esteem, our love and belonging, and our social connections, our own safety. And then, of course, things like food, water, shelter. And I think it's a really interesting shift right now, too, because people are really appreciating those basic needs in a way that maybe we weren't before. So just an interesting perspective to that.
So true.
Thank you for sharing those, Sharon, and for everyone who sent
No,
those in.
yeah, thanks for the messages, guys. It's really nice just again to feel that sense of community. So
Hmm.
cool.
So we have lots of ways that we can help you maybe find your own self-care routine. Sharon kind of mentioned that, with creating your own schedule right now, with creating a routine, that it's very much trial and error. Um, there's no right or wrong to self-care. It's all about kind of trying things out, seeing what you like and what actually does bring you joy and happiness, and then working those small changes into your daily routine. So one of our things we have is, of course, we've got all of our online resources. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We've got podcasts, obviously webinars, and we're always having the conversation about self-care on those things. Talking to friends is huge for this time of isolation, for maintaining that social connection. It's really important for your mental health. Movement, of course, that is self-care. And when we say movement, we don't mean like, did you do an hour Zoom workout? If you did, then virtual high five because you're amazing. But it could be movement just as in, vacuuming the house, walking your dog, or even yesterday, I actually just did a walk around my house because that's all I had time for. Movement is movement at this point. And, if we're still committing to it every day, big or small, I think that's the important thing there. Getting to sleep, guys, sleep is so hugely important. We're going through a global pandemic. This happens, once a century. We are in a stress response right now, and sleep is so healing, so restorative for us. It's so important now more than ever that we're getting to sleep at a proper time for the proper amount of time, and that we're really like nurturing that part of our wellness. It's so important. And if you want to see how important, selfless little blog here, little post here, we've got a blog post on Zest Wellness as well on sleep and on ways to get a good night's sleep. And then, of course, sorry, I've got something blocking that. Medication management, switching off the TV to avoid overwhelming yourself with the news. This one as well, pretty huge right now. Of course, this is a global event that's going on, but the news is heavy. Some people can handle that and some can't. Recognizing whether you're one of those people who can handle the weight of what's happening right now is very important. If you are not one of those people, and I am not, it is okay to kind of avoid the overwhelm right now.
Yeah, so
of course,
true. It's like a
yeah,
balance, isn't it, Katie? Like you to
yeah,
still stay informed, but not get overwhelmed. That is,
yeah,
yeah, I really identify with that.
yeah. I personally find it a bit too heavy to read too much global news right now, but I'm doing my best and what I can do for myself to stay informed. And of course, as you said, Sharon, to stay informed with my government's daily
Mm-hmm.
updates.
Sure.
Hand hygiene, of course, that is now our self-care, as well as a form of self-preservation. The same with respiratory hygiene as well. And then, of course, your more traditional self-care, things like candles, having a nice cup of tea, relaxing music, getting outside when it's allowed, and then, of course, working out and movement. Getting outside for me right now, especially with the boundaries with work and home and everything else, has been really, really helpful. Creating that separation between workspace and my life has been really helpful. So do give that one a try.
So true.
So how can Zest help? I've just listed quite a few of our resources already. But, just to wrap that up again, we do have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, podcast, blog. We've got some great little lists and, workbooks that you can do. So one for today that would be really helpful would be, 5 ways I'm self-caring. So after this webinar, if you could, get out a notebook and write down 5 ways that you're doing self-care for yourself, and just kind of reflecting on what you're doing for yourself, because you might be doing them and not realizing it. So, you know, you might have had your cup of coffee outside today, but not realize that that's why you had done it. So just a moment of reflection and maybe a moment of planning as well. If you have felt the overwhelm lately, and you need to take a minute to just kind of, you know, slow it down and say, okay, I'm overwhelmed with this, so how can I care for myself?
And for the parents out there, I would just reiterate, like, what can we manage right now? Like, what can we do in less than 10 minutes that is defining our self-care, our individual preferences right now, like drinking water, Katie said, being outside, you know, and staying inside as well, and trying to find a way to relax and unwind is really, really important. But the timing is something that someone just messaged in, that they really, you know, that they might feel pressured to do something for an hour, as you said, the hour-long Zoom class, but maybe we'll just lower our expectations and nurture ourselves in 10-minute bites for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sharon. And then lastly, we have a daily meditation WhatsApp group that actually started today, but you can still sign up for it. All the information is on our site. And it's a WhatsApp group with a 10-minute daily meditation from Deepak Chopra. It's 21 days, and so far it's really, really cool. And a great way to connect with yourself. Maybe this could be, you know, your 10-minute win for the day. So that's something that we're offering that is completely free to you all. Please do take advantage, because I'm pretty excited about this one.
So cool.
We just kind of want to wrap up today by saying, you know, we want our community to come together by staying apart. That's kind of our COVID message right now, social distancing and all of that. But we want to remind you that, you know, we are a community, and to take care of yourself. Not every day is going to be a great day. Some days are going to be fantastic, but we want you to celebrate all these little wins and all these little health wins that you're having with yourself. And of course, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear some more of your feedback. And I think, Sharon, if you've got anything else to add.
No, Katie, that's been really helpful. And as a kind of a working from home parent right now, it's nice just to hear someone say, hey, did you look after yourself today? So thanks, Katie, for that from a personal perspective. And hopefully our listeners today, thank you for listening, maybe manage to use this time as a time to reflect. And yeah, we'd like to invite any questions. So there is a text box if you do have any questions. If not, we'll leave it a few minutes. But yeah, any questions or anything, even comments, like things that you found useful for you, please share them in the text box now.
We will also
Awesome,
accept
Sharon
embarrassing
and
moments.
Katie. To the two of you, I know for myself listening, especially that last slide, that's a come together by staying apart. That kind of made me, that resonated a lot. The big takeaway that I also got from both of you was, rather than looking for solutions or overnight fixes, maybe it's a matter of just, you know, experiments, keeping things small, whether it's like you guys said, the paper airplanes, the hangman, trying things, seeing what works, what doesn't, but just kind of small little steps, and adapting from that. What we'll do is I'll leave it to we'll leave this question for Katie right here, and someone asked specifically again if you could reiterate, how do you join the WhatsApp group?
Sure. So the link is actually on our Instagram bio, but it's also on our Facebook page. And you basically just follow the links for the meditation group, and you'll be added into a WhatsApp group. If you're not familiar with WhatsApp, please let us know and we can help you out. But then once you're in the group, that's it. You'll get a message every day. And it's been really fun so far.
Fantastic. I think it'd be nice. Let's also try to get to as many of the comments about everyone listening and kind of what they're up to, what self-care means for them, or what wellness and parenting means. And then both of you can comment, but I'll just list a couple saying an individual wrote, making shadow figures outside and then laughing with each other.
That's a fun one.
Someone did
So
indeed
cute.
write, just simply a half-hour walk. Super cool. Something else along the lines of having a special breakfast and coffee before signing on to the computer. Of course, taking time to read. It'd be interesting to if either of you have any specific book suggestions in a minute here. Um, and then as well, self-care being perhaps simply just enjoying the silence or even watering plants. But yeah, to both of you right now, any self-care parenting books specifically that you recommend?
Well, the book I recommended is available on the WHO. I believe it's called You're My Hero. So that's a very special book right now. And there's another mindfulness book. I guess it's aimed at younger children, but it's something I'd like to mention. It's called The Magic Moment. And it is a lovely illustrated book that talks about how to deal with anxiety when you're a child. So it's a little story about a little boy who's afraid to go swimming because he's a little bit intimidated. And I think we can identify this with that. We're all in uncharted waters here. And there is a lovely way that he does mindfulness and does breathing techniques to overcome his fears and embrace the moment and get through his challenge. So it's something that, maybe that you could consider downloading online, or and again, I mentioned the free children's book as well. That might be a nice way to connect with our children during this time.
And then Katie, how about yourself? Any self-care specific books that you recommend?
Yeah, there is one book. It's called The Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie. And it's daily meditations to kind of bring you into the present moment, to remind you of what to be grateful for, to help you slow down, relax. Some days it's a meditation, some days it's a very short story. They're like 30-second reads, but they are so good and so powerful. I try to read that every day. That's one of my self-cares, but being realistic, you can't fit in everything every day. But the days that I'm able to fit this book in are always
Cool.
good days.
Yeah, I like that it's 30 seconds as well. I'm definitely going to check that one out.
Journey to the Heart. It took
Cool,
me months
thanks.
to find it in hard copy, but
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Awesome. And then before we wrap up, and all the presentation, all the slides will actually be shown in the recording, which will be found on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and simply type in Zest Wellness, you'll see our channel and you'll see the exact recording with the slides and with a few of the links that Sharon and Katie had mentioned. But we did get one question, and this will be nice to hear from both of you about any tips on creating a workspace. So perhaps that means some sort of workspace tips at home, but how to kind of get maybe in the work zone, any workspace tips in general, and we'll close it out as our last question.
Ooh, good question. So for me, definitely, as we mentioned, trial and error. I've moved my desk, I'd say, about 8 times in the last few weeks, because there's light coming in on the window. The ergonomics doesn't feel good. I've changed chairs. I've tried sitting on different pillows and stuff, so we don't have the kind of the really nice corporate environment that we're used to, but definitely modifying what we're using and trial and error, finding what works for you. If you can, yeah, just separate that space. Headphones as well. If you can't physically remove yourself from your environment, maybe just with sound, maybe listen to music to define it separately might help you. Yeah.
Nice, Sharon. I would say for me to just keep it organized. A clear desk is a clear mind. And as I mentioned in the webinar, I actually like to tidy up my desk, and lately I've been putting it away at the end of the day as well for that separation. But keeping it organized, keeping it simple. Nathan, I think you knew I was going to say this, but I'd love to have plants, indoor plants everywhere. They make me really happy. And I think watering your plants too is self-care. That is top notch. I love nothing more than to watch my plants grow. So,
That's so cool. So you bring nature to your workspace. So you bring the outside in. If we can't go outside, bring it in and have some house plants. That's really sweet.
Keeping your workspace inspiring as well, if you're able, I think is really important as well. But then of course, being realistic with what we're working with too. So I would say my top tip is just to keep it organized.
Cool.
Fantastic. So, hey, you know what? On a serious note, it was refreshing and nice to hear from both of you, and how real and candid or raw you both were with kind of, hey, this is a tough time, but maybe we can try this or that, and we can support each other while we're at it, just to try to move together.
And above all, be kind to yourself, everyone. That's the last thing I want to say.
Yeah, awesome. So like we mentioned, this recording will be on our YouTube page. And on behalf of every single individual on the Zest Wellness team, thank you for everyone tuning in. Our main wellness website, we'll find also access to our blog is zestwellnesscgi.com. And we will be continuing webinars during this time in public health. That said, thank you again to everyone.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.